I developed a tool called the Achievements Questionnaire. And what that does is people go through it and they start to just understand their achievements. I always find it quite interesting when I say to people, so what are your achievements? People look at me like, like I'm crazy, and ironically, the people who are probably the most impressive in terms of their career tend to be the people that don't understand their achievements the most. They kind of just see it as just doing their job. And so this achievements question.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Tom O'Neill. He is an award international speaker, best-selling author, and career development powerhouse. Tom's work has been featured in Harvard Business Review, The Economist, and over 300 other global publications. He's the author of multiple career and personal branding books, including the Amazon bestseller, The 1% Principle, which has helped thousands of professionals make consistent, sustainable changes in their lives. As the managing director of CV.co.nz and regular national columnist, Tom has supported over 10,000 clients across 50 countries, guiding them to land their dream roles, build standout personal brands, and lead with purpose. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Kia ora, my friend, as we say here in the beautiful New Zealand.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on. And first of all, I want to learn a little bit more about what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a degree, started my career with a degree in psychology, and I was just fascinated in people and thought, that's, let's find out more. From there, got into recruitment, and really interesting things. Was doing recruitment, was a recruiter for Deloitte. An HR management consultant. I had the great honour of being the youngest management consultant in the whole of New Zealand, about 26 years of age, for Deloitte. And it was really, really weird because, the previous 5 years, and when I was at Deloitte, you're interviewing, looking to recruit chief financial officers, senior level roles, CEOs. And all of these people, I just found not all of them, but many of these people were really great with their career, really fantastic. But when you dig a little deeper, they were having personal relationship issues with their family. Their health was really poor. They were just stressed out the whole time. They weren't really working on anything outside in terms of hobbies or interests or anything like that. And it was just a common theme. People thinking for another 10, 20 grand, my life will be so much better. Well, in actual fact, for an extra 10, 20 grand, you're just going to get more responsibility, be away from your wife more, your husband, whatever it is, your kids. And so for me, I thought, actually, I'm at 26 years of age. I'm trying to, find out who I am and what I'm doing on this planet. And so for me, it was a real interesting journey around focusing, primarily on the career, helping people in their careers, but having an understanding of actually it's being more holistic and really transitioning my thinking, and as such, the thinking of my clients away from not just your career. I mean, we all need more successful careers, but then also balancing that with health, with family, with friends, with fun, with faith, all these other things. And so for me, that was the transition from just really seeing people focus only on one area of their life, doing it well, but to the neglect of everything else. So that made me want to sort of provide a bit more insight across the whole area of life, if that makes sense.
And throughout these years, it's been almost like 15 years and a half or something that you have been started your coaching business. Maybe it's been more that you've been coaching, but throughout these years, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, throughout these years, which part of the coaching journey?
It's quite funny. I used to say that I've got over 20 years experience in recruitment and HR. And then one day I was saying that and realized I've actually got over 30 years experience in recruitment and HR. It's quite depressing, really, but
It's you mean, so 15 years would be like the actual coaching business, and then there's
That's
about
right.
20. Yeah, 25 extra there's been coaching in HR.
Oh, probably another 15 extra. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay. Amazing. And so, which part of the coaching journey would you say is the one that you find the most rewarding since you started your coaching business?
really interesting question. I developed a tool called the Achievements Questionnaire. And what that does is people go through it and they start to just understand their achievements. I always find it quite interesting when I say to people, so what are your achievements? People look at me like, like I'm crazy, and ironically, the people who are probably the most impressive in terms of their career tend to be the people that don't understand their achievements the most. They kind of just see it as just doing their job. And so this achievements questionnaire I developed, it actually got published in the world's largest career guide called What Colour Is Your Parachute? So it was published in that, I think, for about 15 years, which was cool. My work got translated into, I think, 13 languages around the world, something like that, which is crazy. But the interesting thing with this is it helps people get tangible uh, aspects or tangible examples of their achievements. For example, I had a young woman phone me, she's probably 18 and 19, and in tears. I'm like, this is weird. People don't normally phone me crying. And, I said, well, what's wrong? And she said, I've just handed in my notice to my boss. He screwed it up and threw it in the bin and laughed at me. And I want a CV, please. I want to leave the job, my heart just went out to her, I could just feel her heartbreak. And I said, well, okay, well, let's just unpack some of this. And this is over the phone. She's just outside on a mobile phone crying. And I said, so what's your background? And she said, I work as an office administrator at a gas station, And we go, oh, okay, cool. And all right, and it started to go through some of these achievements. Have you done this? No. Have you done that? No. Then I said, have you set up any systems? And she goes, only MYOB. MYOB is a accounting finance system we have this part of the world. And I said, what? You set up MYOB? This young woman's 18, but maybe even 17. And I said, you set up MYOB in the company, in the service station? And she goes, no, all his service stations. And I went, what? And he's got something like 6 service stations. So she set up this accounting and finance package and networked it across 5, 6 petrol stations. I said, that's amazing. And she goes, oh, yeah. And then I said, do you earn any cash handling? And she says, oh, not much. And I said, how much? She says, oh, I take $60,000 to the bank every 2 days. I'm like, I've been in HR for 20 years at the time. And no one's given me $500. And it was so funny because you could hear the cogs in her brain just literally go gugunk. She started to now understand her value, and she said, right, I'll phone you straight back. Hung up on me, went back and printed off the letter, went over to the boss, slammed it on his table, told him I'm out of here, phoned me back about 10 minutes later and helped her with the CV, got a wonderful new job, and away she went. But that for me, I'll never forget that, because it was just one of those moments where as a coach you have this incredible honour of speaking into someone's life. And it was such a blessing. It was such an incredible blessing to help this woman go from, in literally 8 minutes, from a blubbering mess who believed she had no value to a powerful young woman who was actually doing really cool stuff. Yeah, so for me that was a really probably my favourite bit of what I do, helping people understand their value. And it's a relatively simple process.
That is an amazing story, especially given that, like you said, 7 minutes, a phone call, you can make a difference. You can make an impact in someone's life like that.
It was
That is
crazy.
amazing. So typically, we talked a little bit about this in the intro as well. When it comes to the people that you work with, the target audience, or who you generally end up working with, how would you describe them? Is there a specific industry or specific niche, or maybe a specific demographic that you typically find yourself working with, or is it broad?
Yeah, I like to say actually it's quite broad. I work with students all the way through to CEOs. Yeah, which is great because it's a lot of nice variety. You're working with some person who, is an amazing global leader. I mean, some of the people I've worked with, I'm thinking it's insane. But the funny thing, they're still terrible. at knowing what their achievements are. Just useless. And then, you've got a, 20-year-old student who's just graduated with a degree in marketing, and they're out to make a mark in their world. It's awesome. Ones I really enjoy working with are, mums who are returning to the workforce. Again, that's a whole demographic itself, that are people, successful women who then take a break for their career. But then they suddenly think, my whole career, everything's changed. I've been out of the market for 3 years, and I'll step down to get back into it. Well, why do you need to step down? It's not like the law field's changed that much in 3 years, or the marketing industry's changed that much in 3 years, or whatever it is. And so again, just helping women like this really understand their value, and that there's no need just because you've taken time out of your career. We shouldn't be, and a lot of them come to me very sort of, I've taken time out of my career. You took your time out of your career to do the most important job a human possibly can. Is to raise a family. You should be thrilled. You should be stoked telling our potential employer that I took 3 years out to focus on my family. And for some reason, we've got this whole, you've taken time out, something's wrong. So for me, if it's very wide, which is wonderful. And again, it just gives a lot of variety. As I say, one day I'm dealing with a global chief operations officer. A few hours later, I'm dealing with a student who has just graduated. It's really great honour.
And how do you find people, or how do people find you in order to work with you in terms of like marketing channels?
Yeah. So our business, cv.co.nz. I also own outplacement.co.nz, learninganddevelopment.co.nz, interviews.co.nz, all this sort of stuff. So certainly worked very hard at the start 20 years ago trying to buy, all the sort of relative domain names, CV service, LinkedIn profiles, you name it, I probably got it, just to try and capture that market in terms of that brand. Of course, that helps with Google. And so a lot of it's organic search, which is an incredible blessing. Right place, right time sort of thing. I won't say it was due to any smarts. It was just due to, being there. Some things are funny, like interviews.co.nz was just sitting there free. Crazy. It cost me $30. cv.co.nz, I had to get a loan to buy. It was $5,000. It was 20 something years ago, and the guy that owned it said I want $5,000. And at the time, it was all the money in the world. You're just starting your business, you're spending $5,000 on literally nothing except some digital placeholder, But again, obviously that turned into the best investment in my life. My wife was very supportive, and it was really, really great to have her behind me there. And, going to the bank to say to the bank, we want to buy this digital asset. It's kind of like buying an NFT these days, sort of deal. In some respect, the bank's like, what's this? But, thankfully that went ahead. And so buying those domain names is really important. Obviously, 20 odd years are going now. So we've been going cv.co.nz as such has been going just over 20 years now. And effectively, we get a lot of organic business coming. Just, friends of friends, people returning. It's quite funny. It's kind of, as a coaching business, we have people come to us, help them out, which is a great, great blessing. And then, 2 or 3 years later, they come back. But of course, over 20 years of working, that's quite a nice, consistent sort of income. Of course, referrals are very, very good. Always getting referrals, and got 3 referrals yesterday, something like that. It's just amazing. And then on top of that, Google Ads is our main advertiser. So we've always historically found Google Ads very, very good. I tried LinkedIn, found it was too expensive. Facebook got, very limited response for the investment. Always found Google Ads the best way to get that word out. I'm always trying different things and trying different stuff, and, unfortunately haven't found a magic bullet per se, but, through pretty much Google Ads and the organic search where it comes up and referrals on the whole, and have a pretty solid pipeline.
I really like it. You already have a pretty diverse set of marketing channels. Most of the coaches that I interview happen to only have referrals or rely on referrals, but you've worked out some other channels and extra to that, which is amazing, especially thinking about these domains. They probably are worth a lot more today. You
Honestly,
wouldn't sell them
seriously,
again.
Every single one of them was sitting there except for cv.co.nz. It's ridiculous. So wherever you are in your own country, just jump online and find out if interviews, LinkedIn profiles, all of that stuff is sitting there. And it's just crazy. And of course, you buy LinkedIn profiles, co.nz or co.ab or wherever you are, suddenly, obviously set up a quality web page to have something that Google likes. And then now you become a lot further up the chain because you've got that brand. Yeah.
Absolutely. And not only do you rank organically on Google, you also are doing Google ads on top of that. So you kind of like have some real estate within the Google search area that belongs to you, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, if you're searching in a different channel, I mean, we do social media advertising on Facebook. When I say advertising, social media posts. So don't pay for advertising on Facebook or LinkedIn, but do. I've got 5,000-6,000 connections on LinkedIn. So twice a week, put up a post, smiling person, and just like a tip. So not necessarily come to cv.co.nz will solve your problems. Or, there's only one time in your life, there's only one time in society we're allowed to talk about how good we are. That is the job hunt. That's one of my go-to sayings. We as humans, you don't go to a barbecue as we have in New Zealand, I'm sure around the world. You don't go to a barbecue and start talking about how good you are. You sound like an idiot. However, people take that barbecue mentality to the job interview. They don't talk about how good they are at the interview and just very humble and very quiet. Well, this is the one time someone's wanting to hear how good you are. They're wanting you to talk about how you met and exceeded KPIs, how you set up that new system, how you awarded further responsibility, how you're involved in coaching and mentoring, training new people. As a former recruiter, that's gold to me because it helps me define your value against someone else's. And that's, again, what my achievements questionnaire does, help people pull that stuff out. But the problem is people go to the interview and go, I do these 5 things. And I suppose one of my other things I would say is imagine if the world's greatest tennis player, let's say Rafael Nadal, imagine if he wrote his CV and put occupation tennis player, responsibilities hit ball. It's crazy. It's absolutely mad. But it is what he does for his job. This is the thing. It's what he does for his job. Yet, he's won Wimbledon, he's won US Open, blah, 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 blah. That shows the quality of him hitting that ball. And the problem is, you'll say I'm a sales rep, I do these 6 things. I'm a CEO, I do these 12 things. Well, it's like saying Rafael hit a ball. And you want that in your CV, but what are the outcomes of hitting? What are the outcomes of hitting the ball effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. And great analogies, by the way. When it comes to, you mentioned a book at the beginning.
What color is your parachute?
And so what color is your parachute? What is that about specifically?
So that's the world's best-selling career guide. So it's been published, I think, every year since 1980 or something. And that's very much in the career space. I think it's sold over 10 million copies worldwide. But it's written by a guy called Dick Bowles, who sadly passed away now. But it's really primarily focused on the career space. And so really, really great book.
I wanted to ask you also about when it comes to like looking into the future from now, what are some goals you're working towards with your coaching business? Is there something coming up?
Yeah, it's interesting. In terms of particular goals, also have another business, learning and development, which is free. Just sitting there on the internet.
I get the pattern now.
Learningdevelopment.co.nz. When I saw it, I just couldn't believe it. My balls almost fell out of my head. But I do a lot of a lot of training programs on professional business writing and critical thinking and problem solving and so on for our national defense.
And you mentioned that you also have a team structure. How does that look like? But how is the structure look like? So what are the roles you've hired? Wow, Antarctica. That is impressive. Yeah. What would you say is like the biggest challenge that you're trying to solve for now? Is there any challenges that you're facing with your coaching business? Yeah, you got to market yourself. Yeah. We have about like 5 more minutes. I wanted to get you is there any final advice you'd like to give to other coaches who are looking to scale their impact? Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. For anyone who wants to find you or connect with you, they can go into LinkedIn, search Tom O'Neill, or they can go into Google, again, search your name on it. Your website will come out. And you also mentioned your websites as well throughout the podcast. We'll make sure to link it as well in the description so people can come and find you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. And yeah, it's been a lovely episode overall. Thank you so much for coming.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.